Good afternoon. That's better. Hello, my name is Josh Marco. I am with the Grand Valley Project Management Office. I am the project manager for the Workday student implementation, and I was also the project manager on the Workday platform implementation. And welcome to our Workday at GVSU Town Hall. Thank you for being here, and hello to all of our friends who are out there on Zoom. I'm just going to do an overview of our agenda, and then I'll pass it to a few folks for some remarks. So we'll start off with an overview from Workday governance on some of the recent happenings with Workday at GVSU. I'm hearing that I need the mic closer like this, right? Okay, excellent. Thank you, Belinda. So we'll start with an overview, and then we'll hear from our teams at Finance about recent updates and optimization for Workday. We'll then hear from our colleagues at Human Resources and the Student Employment Office. Lastly, we'll hear an update on the Workday student implementation, and then we'll move into panel Q&A to close out the formal session. And following that session, we do have tables available around the room to take whatever questions you may have on Workday. No, I would not like to let Windows access my location. And so with that, I am going to introduce the executive leadership of our Workday initiatives at GVSU. And to start us off, I'd like to introduce Dr. Sanyal, Vice President for the Finance Administration Division.
I want to thank everybody for coming today to the town hall here for Workday, and I just want to go in the Wayback Machine. If we can go back to about 2020, 2021, around then, when we were looking to start the process for this transformation. At the time we were using Banner for the finance function, and Banner, we'd been using that for about 20 years, and it just was not meeting our needs, to be quite honest with you, and the future did not look bright for Banner. And so we started the process to look towards a new ERP for business and finance, and at the time also HR. And what I used kind of as a metric is, with Banner, we had about 25 different plugins to Banner, because Banner couldn't do what we wanted Banner to do. If you wanted to do an expense report, you had to do that in SAP Concur, which then fed into Banner. And we had about 25 programs like that. So when you got 25 things added on and tacked on to Banner, that's probably an indication that Banner's not meeting our needs. And so that's when we started the process to do the transition to Workday. And I've got to say, it was a lot of work. And the platform transition for HR, the HR functionalities and the business and finance functionalities, I think went extremely well. It was on time, on budget, and we've made tremendous strides. And what here's an example: to do the consolidated financial reports for the university, to get a trial balance, just to start the audit, you got to get a trial balance, and just to start the audit, that took a couple of months in Banner. So we had to pull stuff in from a bunch of different places, and it had to be kind of homogenized into a spreadsheet. Workday, we can push a button, and get that trial balance in a few minutes. So it really has brought Grand Valley and our administration processes, really into the 21st century. So I couldn't be more pleased with where we are. And the journey continues with we're still running Banner, obviously, for the student part, but we won't soon. And so I think it's just, and we did that, a lot of hard work for a lot of people in this room, a lot of long hours, but the university's better off for it, and we're much better positioned moving forward. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Robert Shorty. He's next.
Oh, thank you. Mic in hand. Hey, how are you all doing? Come on, we got more energy on Monday than that. I know it got a little cold out after this beautiful weekend, which is never great, but thank you all for having me. Thank you, Greg, for kind of taking us behind and back to really kind of talk about the why since the launch of Workday platform. I want to take a little bit of time to celebrate the work that has and continues to be done behind the scenes to improve your experience. This has included nearly 40 completed optimizations in Workday that have been broadly documented, and a minimum of 9 that are currently in progress, many of which are large efforts involving collaborations across numerous teams here at Grand Valley. During our time today, you'll hear more about the enhancements that have already been made, those that are underway, and how the Workday Governance Group is gathering feedback on additional desired improvements. And if you haven't heard about that group, and if you have ideas of things that could potentially be better, that's where you want to leave that information, because they take a look at those, and we really have conversations around ways that we can continue to optimize your experience in Workday. And the reason that that's important is because as we continue to optimize and use Workday, we will continue to build this into our overall experience as we think about ourselves here each and every day at the organization. So imagine, right, having a new hire who can go in and have their whole first year journey nailed out in terms of all of the trainings they have to complete. And the supervisor can, in their computer, go and look, how are they doing in those trainings? How is it coming along right from the touch of the screen, right? Those are the type of optimizations that we are hoping to do to help improve the experience of our new hires, help improve the experience of all of our folks here. So we're here today in part to ensure that we are aligned in our shared commitments to the success and continued improvements of Workday platform, as well as the significant undertaking that is Workday Student, which you heard Greg mention. My team, along with many others, is committed to making meaningful updates, and that success depends on all of us staying engaged. So we got to get in Workday. So if you haven't been in Workday in the last week, you got homework after today. Go and check your Workday. But we have to stay engaged, we have to learn, and we have to adapt. Embracing an innovator mentality means being able to change and working together to achieve our goals. But before I pass it off, I want to remind you that this is one system. The Workday that you use for HR and finance activities is going to be the same Workday that you will use to support student success with registration, tuition, grading, and beyond. Change almost always brings challenges, and we can expect some early on with Workday Student, but over time it will become seamless. BP Trust is going to tell us a little bit about what this upcoming transition will mean for our students. Thank you all.
Good afternoon again. Thank you for being here this afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Shorty, for passing the mic over here. I get an opportunity to talk a little bit about Workday Student and all the excitement that will come with this effort. And I don't know about you, but I'm super excited about how we're moving forward with this. I want to briefly talk a little bit about how this will impact our students. Students today expect systems that feel current, simple, and easy to navigate. They want a modern experience, one place where they can access their information and clearly understand what they need to do. That's a super important feat for them. And we believe that the work that we're doing with Workday Student is going to help us be much closer to delivering that. Workday Student is designed to provide, and we're excited to share a sneak peek with you today, a seamless experience for our students. You'll also hear today from members of the Workday Student Project team about the project timeline and how we'll continue to communicate and provide training as we move forward. Dr. Shorty mentioned that we're going to run into some pressure or pain points, but that's what we want to happen right now. We want to figure those pieces out. We want to recognize them and start to solve for it before we completely release it for our students to use. So this is going to be an exciting time of discovery, but everything that we identify as a pain point, we'll be working diligently to make sure we solve. As student activities begin to launch in Workday, our goal is for the experience to feel as seamless as possible. And so again, there will be some adjustments early on, but we will work through those adjustments. We have assembled the right people at the right time to solve for this, and we celebrate all the time and effort that you all have put into this. And we understand that for many of you, you are working in bringing Workday forward, but you're also doing some of the things that you had assigned to you and tasked to you before Workday came along. And I want you to know that we are appreciative of you taking on the big task and continuing to push forward. And our students are going to find a system that is better because of the work that you've done. And so we say thank you, and I bring that thank you from President Mantella and the full SLT team. We want you to know that we recognize the work that you're doing, and we are most appreciative. And again, our students will benefit from that. And once this strong foundation is put in place, we won't stop there. We'll continue to look ahead. We'll continue to look at how we enhance the work that we do. We will be communicating along the way. We'll continue to send out newsletters and updates along the way. And so we ask that you continue to pay attention to those things. And at any time, if you have questions or concerns, feel free to talk to us about it. We will know when you tell us in some instances. So please feel free to talk to Dr. Samuel, Dr. Shorty, myself, Dr. Jenny Hall-Jones, who's here with us as well, and other leaders of this space. And whatever it is that we encounter, we'll work together to solve for. And again, thank you so much for the work that you're doing and you have done with Workday Student and the complete Workday system. Thank you so much.
Thank you to VPs Samuel, Shorty, and Truss. And to sort of move us into the next segment of this presentation, before I pass it over to governance group, let's take a little look at where we are in the timeline of our Workday at GVSU transformation. And I put this slide together, and I was kind of like, wow, like this really fits in the context of a decade pretty well. And so if we go back to 2020, that's when really in more earnest our discovery and assessment of Workday as a replacement to Banner began. I joined the project management office in January of 2022, right at the tail end of that discovery work, around the time a decision was formally being made. I think what stands out to me as I reflect back on that time is, that in addition to a lot of discussion around the benefits and the risks of moving to Workday, there was also a lot of discussion around what the alternative path would have been. And that would have been a similar but different transformation with Banner Cloud, moving from our on-premises Banner solution to a cloud solution. So it's just interesting to think back. If we had taken an alternative path, I could still be standing here today, and this slide would just say Banner Cloud at GVSU transformation. Personally, I'm happy it says Workday. So if we fast forward to around February of 2022, that's when we began implementing Workday platform for all of our finance, HR, and payroll functions. That implementation spanned many years, with really the highlight being the January 2024 go live of that core functionality for those HR, payroll, and finance activities. If you go back to that go live, we actually, prior to even reaching that deployment date, began to stand up our Workday student implementation. We first met with and began interviewing our implementation partners in October of 2023 and began that implementation. And so just like with the Workday platform go live in January of 2024, our move to production, or our go live with Workday student, is upcoming this year in October of 2026. And what you'll see is over the course of the subsequent year or so, we will be deploying functions in Workday Student to replace how those functions are performed in Banner, up until we reach our fall 2027 semester. At that point, that's what we call our target term. Banner, we'll say goodbye to Banner. Banner goes away, and all of our functions at that point will be performed in Workday. And so following that fall 2027-2028 academic year, we won't be talking about Workday Platform or Workday Student anymore. There will just be one Workday at Grand Valley. And of course, that will continue with the optimization and refinements that we're seeing with Workday Platform today. So that's our timeline. That's the transformation, and I'm looking forward to 2030. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Nick Nelson to talk about the Workday Governance Group.
I'm going to take the clicker. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nick Nelson. I am the Director of Enterprise Applications here at Grand Valley in our IT division. And I also have the privilege of helping to lead one of the groups that we have on campus that's called the Workday Governance Group. I thought I'd take a second just to talk a little bit about what that group is, because I know that there are probably many who have not heard of that before and didn't even know we had a group like that that existed. So what the group is stood up for is really to ensure that the oversight and the direction of Workday here at Grand Valley is, kind of cohesive, and that we're doing it in a way that is informed by the needs of the entire university. So what the group does is we meet almost weekly to review and prioritize things that come in from the community at large about what they would like to see in the system, and we kind of work to align that with our goals and the policies of the university. We're also a liaison between all of the people at the university and kind of the administration of Workday. And then the other thing that we look to do is just to facilitate consistent use of Workday. So what the goal there is really is to, as we're standing up business processes, we don't want there to be a business process for every single college and every single department, right? We want it to feel cohesive no matter where you go at the university. The system works the way it works for everybody else. And then the final thing that we do is every year, Workday comes out with they come out with 2 major releases a year. They happen in March and they happen in October. And they have a ton of new features that come out. So we look at those and decide which ones need to be incorporated into our life here at the university, and which ones maybe we just don't need. And in addition to that, they're constantly coming out with bug fixes and all these different things. And so we look to make sure that we're keeping up with all of the releases that are coming out from Workday. So that's just a little bit about what that group is. It is across the entire university. It is finance, it is HR, it is student accounts, it is financial aid, it is the registrar's office. I'm forgetting some people here. I know we have some representatives from the provost's office, right? So it is a very broad representation in that group to make sure that we're hearing as many voices as we can. So one of the things that we decided to do this year with that group is we decided to do what we called an optimization intake. So if you've heard of kind of what the project management office, for instance, did this year, we tried to do something a little bit similar, which is we wanted to make there be a kind of a standardized process for bringing in some optimization ideas that maybe we haven't heard before, and kind of looked at those and try to prioritize them as an entire group. And so to that end, we, in January, we sent out a call to all the appointing officers at the university to ask them to please work with their units and work with their groups to gather as much feedback as they could on what is working and what is not working within Workday, and submit those into a single form so that we could look at them and evaluate them. And then this is kind of the end of that process right here so that we can talk a little bit about what we found. Every single request that came in, there was over 50 responses. Every single one of those was looked at by somebody within the Workday governance group, and we provided a detailed response to every single one of those items that came in, no matter what the item was. So on the right side of the screen, I kind of went through and broke down what we saw as the types of issues. Almost a quarter of the things that came in were deemed to be a system working as designed. So what that means to me in looking through the responses, what we saw there was the reason the request that came in, there was a policy decision, or there was just the way that we work here at Grand Valley decision that was made, that is the reason why the system is designed that way. And so that was the response that we gave, right? We made a conscious decision to design it that way. About a fifth of them were legitimate, really great optimization requests that we have now put into a queue that we are going to be putting on our website, and we will be working on those over the coming year or more. About a fifth of those as well were constraints to the system. So some of those constraints could be deemed as Workday just doesn't work the way that we would maybe want it to work. That's okay. Workday is a huge system. It is used by a ton of Fortune 500 companies, right? It is a $1 billion company. we can't expect that they are going to design every single thing in Workday to work for the way that we want it to work, right? They have needs across tons of different industries that we have to understand that they have to meet that. So an example of one of these that came in was somebody didn't like the where one of the menu items was on the left-hand side of the screen. Yeah, that's a fair complaint, and I understand that people don't like that and it doesn't work for you as an individual, but we have to keep in mind that everybody has to use the system. It's not just one person, and we can't customize it to every single person. And then some of those system constraints are also, they're regulatory, or there's something that was put in there that Workday said, we have to do it this way because, the federal government requires us to do it that way or whatever. So some of those things are in there as well. And then another 18%, training, change management, user error. So a lot of these are just, I didn't know how to do this, or I didn't know that this thing existed. And so in our responses, we put that in there along with links to where you can get more help on how to find that. So that was the majority of the issues in there. There was a few that were, kind of out of scope and in different places. One thing that we did identify in that, in going through that, is there's still a lot of work on training and change management that we can still do. And so one of the things that we'll be looking at here over the next year is how can we help train people, retrain people, do new hire training, all of that kind of stuff, to make sure that that everybody understands how to use the system as effectively as possible. And then the last thing that I want to mention is just if you are continuing to have issues or you have new ideas for what we could do in Workday, you may continue to submit those requests via the service portal. There is a change management Workday change request form in there. Please submit those. Those come directly to me. I bring them to the Workday governance group every week. We review them, we talk about them, we decide what we can do. So please continue to do that. This is not the last time we are going to do stuff like this. We're hoping this could be a yearly thing that we do. And yeah, I think it was very successful. And then the last thing I'll just mention real quick is that we sent out the report that we wrote up to all of the AOs, and anybody who submitted to that form, they got that today. And so they can read that and go through that, and they're welcome to distribute that as widely as they would like to. And in addition to that, that's going to be posted on our website, and it will also be in the Workday newsletter that comes out in April. So anybody who wants to go in there and read all the responses and the things that were submitted, you can go through and do that. So that is all I have for today. If you have more questions, obviously we'll do the Q&A, and I'll also be at the table later if you have any questions for me. And with that, I'm going to pass it up to Erica from Finance.
Thanks, Nick. I'm going to stand on the side. I'm shorter than everybody else that talks up here. So you probably can't see me over this. So I'm Erica Herwig. I'm the Assistant Controller over Accounts Payable and Finance Systems in the Business and Finance Office. I like to talk, so I got voted in to do this today for Finance, so I'm going to talk about all of our points here. We first wanted to cover the items that we've already done as far as optimization goes over the last couple of years. We spend a lot of time trying to improve the system regularly. The first one I want to call out is we have created a Workday Finance Handbook. This handbook has everything you might need for finance in it, links to all of our demos, what a work tag is, how to create expense reports, how to review your budgets, all the things in it. That is available on the Finance Workday website. If you go to Business and Finance, right on our homepage at the bottom, there's a Workday Resources tab. It's also linked to the Workday at GVSU website as well, and you can find that there. Also on all the things on the left-hand side here are covered on our Finance Updates website. We also have supplied some supplier invoice request guidance. The supplier invoice request was a new concept to us with Workday. Well, kind of new concept. It replaced a lot of things that we used to do in Banner and OnBase, and we combined those things into one form. And so we were trying to provide some guidance as to what you would need, how you would need it, and how to complete that form. And there's a whole list in there with a lot of guidance for you. All of your P-card and declining balance card applications can now be done in Workday. If you remember before, it was a PDF you had to download and fill out, and now you can do all of that in Workday. We've also updated many learning courses, help articles. We've created a lot of custom reports, especially on the finance and the budgeting side of things and the procurement side. Heather White would be standing here with me, but she's coming home from Mexico today. So she has built a ton of reports for us in there, as well as updating our website, where we keep actually a running tally of all of these things that we've updated. I'm going to talk about that for just a second before I move to what we're working on right now. On our website, again, is our finance updates website. There you can subscribe to updates. Anytime we make a change in finance or make any optimization of any kind, we post it on this website and you'll get an email notification that says it's there. So you can go out and see what's going on with us, see what we've updated. If you're a super user or have a super user in your department, we also post those in our super user group so that they can try to share that information within their departments as well. So what are we working on right now? One of the major things we're working on that I'm really excited about is we're working on something called the Unified Supplier Portal. This is going to give all of our suppliers for Grand Valley access to Workday directly. They'll be able to log in, create their own account, update all their payment information themselves, but also see their purchase orders, see their outstanding invoices, and look up payment status themselves. So that's a huge thing. All of you that hate that create supplier request, creating your own suppliers in Workday, they'll be able to do this themselves in the portal. We're probably about 3 months out from this being done. So I'm hoping by the end of the fiscal year that we have this in place, so watch for communication on that. Heather and procurement are working on adding 2 new punch outs right now. One of them is B&H Photo. B&H Photo is where you can buy camera supplies and some things like that. So, and then also Henry Schein is going to replace the McKesson punch out that we recently removed. So watch for those new punch outs. We're actively testing them. It's going slower than we want, but they should be there hopefully in the next month or so. And then finally, we're partnering with IT and we're working on trying to bring AI into our operational tasks. Supplier invoices, we're really trying to bring it into our invoice process for my team. My team is accounts payable. It's still very manual for us. Workday didn't really change much for my team in the invoice side of things, so we're trying to improve that process for them, be able to turn invoices around, and hopefully give all of you less touches as well in that entire process. The AI is already in place for RFPs with the latest release. Nick mentioned we do releases twice a year with Workday, and the latest was that for your RFPs in Workday Strategic Sourcing, AI is already there reading the contracts for you and trying to help improve just kind of what it looks like. Look for anything that might raise some red flags. And then finally, we are watching AI for expenses in Workday. With this latest release, Workday released an entire AI platform for expenses management. I was hoping that we could jump on that bandwagon, but they put it behind a paywall. So I'm working on it. I'm hoping to improve our expenses wherever we can, and then hopefully we can work with Workday to get some access to that. What that would do is start to create expense reports for you. So less touches there as well, which again is our goal, is to try to get you out of having to one of the biggest complaints I get is how many touches our end users have to do in Workday for finance, and I'm trying to remove as many of those as we can, as quickly as we can. And so our last 2 things that I wanted to touch on is what did happen from finance perspective in this latest release here in March. One of them is on your mobile, you might notice there is now an expenses hub. The expenses hub you currently have in your, when you log into Workday, if you aren't sure it's there, it's one of your menu items. Expenses hub gives you everything expenses in one place. If you owe the university back something, it'll show up there. If you have credit card transactions, it'll show up there. You can see all of your expense reports there. And that is now available on your mobile device as well, on the mobile app as well. For our suppliers that are currently logging into Workday Strategic Sourcing, and also as we roll out the supplier portal, Workday now has a supplier SMS multi-factor, so now they don't need a separate app and they'll just get a text message. So if you have suppliers that are complaining about that already, we're improving that. And then the last thing they did, this won't affect everybody, but we now have an order from connection on the requisition worklet. What that means, there's a lot of things, but what you can do now is if you're working with a supplier and you have one specific person that you work with at the supplier, and maybe Tom works with somebody else at that supplier, you can email Heather and say, I want to work with Billy Joe, and can you please put Billy Joe in for me? And she can do that, and then you'll be able to select their email so that when you place your purchase order, it'll automatically go to that individual for you. So that's something new that they updated as well. And then finally, again, we are constantly working to update our training and learning documents. Heather actually spends a lot of time creating these documents. She has completed the P2P Learning Courses program. If you have anybody who needs to know anything about creating requisitions or processing invoices, there's an entire course now that'll take you from the beginning to end. It's in Workday Learning, and especially for any new employees, you want to make sure that you get that to them. We also have intelligent intake that's available in Workday. That is under the procurement side of things as well. If you go to the left-hand menu and go to procurement, intelligent intake is an AI tool built into Workday. You can ask it anything. You can type in, how do I order a laptop? And it'll pop up the answer and tell you where you need to go to order a laptop. So that is primarily for procurement purchases, though. You may not find other things, like it's really specific to procurement, not HR, but make sure you use it there. We are actively working on live classes again for finance. I'm sorry, we've dropped the ball there. We've been trying to get things moving so you can actually use the tool. So Heather and I, from the procurement and expenses side of things, as well as partnering with the accounting team, we're working on creating live classes again, where I think we're thinking like quarterly, we'll do some live ones, and then because we do have all those e-learning tools as well built into Workday. And lastly, we are also going to be posting fiscal year-end office hours again, so keep an eye on the Business and Finance website. We're trying to do that every year so that you have the way to contact us at fiscal year-end and work through any of your fiscal year-end questions. So I will be on the panel in a little bit here you can ask questions of, and then also I'll have a table back there. And I'm going to hand it over to John, I think, from HR. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Hi. Hello, everybody. I'm John Stino. I'm the HRIS manager, and let's talk about Workday for the first time today. So HR's main focus in this post-go-live optimization kind of stabilization thing that Josh showed earlier has been on the user experience. And one of the things that we get from a lot of people is there are a lot of reports. I can't remember them all. There are a lot of processes. What's the difference between updating and maintaining and editing something when all three of those words seem like the same thing? So HR has worked with some C5s from around the university to create this GVSU Administrative Support Dashboard. It's kind of a one-stop consolidation piece for things that our super users, our C5s, might need to use more often. So we've got a list of helpful reports, and we even worked with Business and Finance. So you can see that their reports and some of their tasks are on this dashboard as well. But it's kind of not a one-stop shop, because I'm sure everyone has different processes that they do separately, but if I'm a C5 being hired for the first time, I at least have a place to start now. This is going to be very helpful for C5s who are just starting out as a location for reports, tasks, etc. Along the same lines, we are currently working on the Manager's Insights Hub. Like a dashboard, Manager's Insight Hub is a consolidation of tasks and reports and things all in one place. But unlike a dashboard, you can actually do processes and see feedback in real time on the hub. So like review time, there are names there. We just removed them to protect the innocent. But as a manager, I can see who has submitted time already, and I need to approve their submitted time, who has time that hasn't been submitted yet. All of that will be available kind of in one place. We have there's a place for job rec or hiring events if you're doing either of those things. Up in the upper left, there's like a consolidation of time off requests, so they're all in one place instead of, oh, who's asking for time off. So we're currently working on the Manager Insights Hub. We haven't implemented it yet because we want to be a little more thoughtful and deliberate with its release, and want to really give some directed training on it. Oh, right, yes. The other thing that we are currently working on is what Workday calls guidance. Guidance is essentially help text, but it's better than hover text, because hover text is like invasive. It's there whether you know what you're doing or not, whereas guidance is the little question mark you see next to specific fields in a task. And within the guidance text, you can link help articles or even other tasks. So you can see in the lower left is create a Workday help case. So those kinds of things you can't just do with hover text, but we are finding that you can do them with guidance. And so we're literally, as of today, we're actively working on the text for guidance and what needs to go where. Guidance is field specific. So each of those fields has different help text associated with them. Both the Manager's Insights Hub and Guidance are things that weren't available in Workday when we went live. And so that's kind of indicative of the work that my team continues to do to explore and build and test new optimization features as they come into Workday. Yeah. Right. Hi. Hello. The next thing that we are working on, it started about a month ago. We started process mapping the hire process. We're going to look at the hire process and see if we can streamline and optimize hire for specific groups of people. When we went live, Workday, the guidance from our consultants was that we should not try to configure for specific populations, but we found post go live that there are reasons to configure a different hire process for different populations. And actually, my good friend and the Associate Director of Student Employment, Caitlin Gurink, is here. She's going to talk about the work that we did specifically for the student hire process. Caitlin?
Hi, everyone. So as John mentioned, my name is Caitlin Gurink. I'm the Associate Director of Student Employment, and I'm going to briefly give a snapshot of what student employee hiring looked like prior to Workday when we were in Banner, and what it looks like now that we've made that transition. So if you've been at Grand Valley for a while and you've hired students prior to Workday, you probably remember using Handshake and the Report a Hire form. Handshake was used to post jobs on campus, and this is where students also applied to those jobs. And then once a student was selected to be hired, the supervisor would submit a report a hire request, and this was done through a CMS form that gathered the student data and then allowed our office to download that information into an Excel spreadsheet. And from there, we would manually re-enter all of that information into Banner in order to get the student fully hired and allow them to enter their hours into Ultra Time. And then once the student was hired, they had to complete all their onboarding documents on physical papers, drop them off in our office, and this often took 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes more, depending on the student. And if they made any mistakes, they had to fill out the forms again due to federal guidelines, so it ended up being a long process that didn't have to take as long as it did. And with this process, there was duplicate manual entries. Everything from job posting to hiring to time entry was all done in separate systems, which created a lot of room for errors and led to compliance concerns, and the process just took longer than it should have. But what we heard most from supervisors is the biggest pain point was having to rehire students every year, if not every semester. So students wouldn't be able to be hired and then stay hired for the entire time. They'd have to be rehired if they wanted to continue working. And so with that, that also led to our office having to manually enter thousands of student hires in the 2 weeks leading up to fall hiring, which just bogged down the system and caused a lot of delays. But move forward to Workday, everything related to student hiring, their paperwork, time entry, paychecks, it's all in one system. They can fill out their documents virtually with a much higher accuracy, and we have better tracking for compliance. Additionally, students usually come into our office and leave within a minute or two, and they're often surprised by how quickly they're able to get their paperwork done. And one of the best parts of this is that supervisors can enter a hire once and they don't have to rehire the student each semester unless they choose to. So if they wanted, a supervisor could hire a freshman and that student could be hired and not have any changes made to them until they graduate 4 years later. And then also, because hire information doesn't have to be entered twice, once by the supervisor and then again by student employment, we're able to approve things much more quickly. And if you know Angel, she works in our office, she often approves things within minutes or a couple hours. So it's definitely streamlined things and made hires much more efficient. With that being said, though, we do know that for those of you who hire multiple students, it can still be time consuming to get them into the system, especially if you're hiring many students at once. So with that in mind, we're working on launching a bulk hiring process that would allow you to hire 15 or more students at the same time through a bulk spreadsheet that we would then upload into Workday. And our goal is to have that ready for fall hiring. And now I'm going to pass the mic to Colleen Lewis, and she will be transitioning over to Workday Student.
Hi, everyone. I'm Colleen Lewis. I am the new Associate Dean in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, in charge of academic support. So new meaning 9 months. And I'm on the Workday leadership team because that's what we do here. I want to first of all thank Dr. Truss for really sharing out what Workday Student will mean for students. As we transition to the student portion of the presentation, I'd like to take a moment, and that's sort of my job here, to talk about what's going to happen in the next few years, the big and exciting things. So this August and September will actually be our first opportunity for faculty, staff, and students to preview the system and the activities they'll be able to do in Workday. We anticipate students being able to sort of complete Workday onboarding tasks as early as December this year. And so the initial faculty and staff training will begin in November. There are 4 time frames which different activities will launch in Workday, meaning faculty, staff, and students will be doing things in Workday instead of in Banner. So the first, and this is a big one, is with onboarding, financial aid, and advising. Registration will begin in Workday around this time next year. And in fact, it will be followed by billing in summer of 2026. By our target term of 2027, fall 2027, all activities that used to be done in Banner will now move to Workday, including things like grade entry and graduation, the big things. Training is set to occur right before these happen, so before each activity launches. You'll hear more about training today. And I'd like to hand it over to Pam, who is actually going to show us a sneak peek as to what students will see in Workday.
Good afternoon. I am going to quickly move out of here and show you. Haha, did that work? It is not working. Lovely. All right, techie people in the crowd, any idea why all of a sudden we can't see anything? No, it seems to be just fine. We're going to let Nick see if he can fix it for us. See, it's a team effort. We're smarter together than we are alone. Yeah, I just minimized the PowerPoint, so I don't know why that did anything. Okay. All right, we have it on one screen and around the back. Oh, hey, there we go. All right. That's why when you do technology, you should never say anything more than watch this, right? Okay, so I'm Pam Wells. I'm the registrar at Grand Valley, and I wanted to just give you a quick sneak peek of what a student profile looks like. So first of all, this is a real student, and I have a signed FERPA release form, and I said, would you mind if I shared your student profile with the town hall? And she said, sure, and she sent me the form, because I thought it would be nicer for you to see a real student than to see a made-up student. So just like when you log into Workday platform and you see your profile, every student will have a profile. And there's all sorts of things you can do. So one of the things that is kind of nice is right up here, if you see the little microphone icon, Jordan or anyone, a student can pronounce their name, and if I play that, you'll hear exactly how Jordan likes her name to be pronounced. You can. She also has put her pronouns there, which is an option that you can choose to take advantage of. You can email her right from there, and then along the side here, there's a lot of things. And what you will see when you look at a student, like I'm logged into the system as me, looking at Jordan, right? I'm not logged in as Jordan. And so I can see things like financial aid and student financials. Depending on your security clearance and what you need to do in order to do your job, you may not see some of those things, right? But everyone should see, or almost everyone should see academics. That's what I'm going to focus on. So when I click on academics, across the top, then you see a whole bunch of tabs. There's an overview that tells us Jordan is working on her master's in English. If I see down here, she also attended Grand Valley as an undergraduate. And so I can see that she was a writing major with an anthropology minor. I can also look and see that currently, this semester, she's in one class. She's working on her master's thesis. She's almost done. If she had a plan, Jordan does not have a plan, but if a student had a plan, you would see her plans there. Academic history provides a ton of information about a student all in one location, so it's very nice. So you can look at each semester, you can see what courses the student took, you can see their grades, you can see their academic standing, you can see whether they're full-time or part-time, you can see their cumulative GPA as well as their primary program of study GPA. You can go and kind of just keep scrolling down. If I kept scrolling farther, I'd get down to her undergraduate work as well. I can also see her academic progress. So the academic progress is what we currently use for academic progress is MyPath, right? And so this is the equivalent of MyPath in Workday. And so I can see her requirements. So I can see that, she has how many credits she has satisfied already, how many credits she has in progress. I can see the required courses down here, and if she satisfied them or not, or if they're in progress. I can see what specific courses satisfied each of those prerequisites or each of those requirements, and what semester she completed them in. Because this is a master's program, that part of the APR is fairly condensed. If I expand her undergraduate, I can see the same thing down here. Oh, no, I can't. I lied. Because she already completed that before we brought things over into Banner. Wow, that's going to be hard to stop saying. I should keep track of how many times I say Banner when I really mean Workday. She had completed that before we brought things over into Workday. But if we looked at an undergraduate student who's a current undergraduate student in the APR or the Academic Progress Report, you would see the general ed requirements, you'd see the university requirements, you'd see their major requirements, their minor requirements. If they're taking a certificate or a badge, you would see those requirements as well. All right, and then, so basically, the thing that I like about this is everything is all in one spot. I can look at all sorts of things about her. I could look at her personal information, and again, depending on my security clearance, I would see different things. I could look at her contact information, see if she has an emergency contact, or if she has third-party proxies set up, which would be similar to our friends and family right now. So everything's kind of all in one spot. She could add a picture if she wanted to. So this is basically what the student profile looks like. So I am going to turn it over to Belinda, I believe, to continue on with the PowerPoint.
Okay, thanks, Pam. Hi, everyone, I'm Belinda Boardman, the Workday Change Management Lead, and I wanted to talk with you a little bit about how we've been engaging with you all over the past couple years and how we will continue to going forward, and then talk a little bit about communications, and then we have two training co-leads, and we have one of them here today to talk with you about training as well. So we have done a lot even over just the past couple years to connect with you all. So we did can you hear me okay? A feedback survey and listening sessions, all the way back into fall of 2024. We've done some early project updates in this room here. And we did a survey last fall where we heard from a number of you as well. This town hall being, really one of the outcomes of that survey, because you said you wanted to, hear a little bit more about how Workday is currently working and what Workday Student's going to look like. So, but even outside of those things, we've had individuals from across the university really involved in this for quite a while, and that's our SMEs that you see up there. So subject matter experts are individuals from, again, across the university and different colleges who are joining in to what we call our workstream meetings. So we've got about a dozen different little teams within our project team that meet every week. And we have individuals, again, coming in and either being a regular part of those meetings or coming in as needed. And then we also have a couple of advisory teams, one for academic affairs and one for communications. So we have the communications directors or individuals from each college involved in that group. We've got university communications and marketing, and communications from student affairs. So again, we've got a number of avenues to get the word out, whether it's like the Lakers Ready or different publications like that, the forum. And then we also have a couple of really key groups that we're calling our Leader Network and our Workday Student Liaisons. And our Leader Network is made up of assistant and associate deans and other leaders from across the university. And our liaisons include advisors, faculty, and staff, PSS, different roles like that. And these two groups are connecting with our project team on a regular basis and hearing about, what Workday Student is going to look like. And they also are then forming their own college or unit's readiness team. So for each college, the SMEs and the comms person and the individuals from the Leaders Network and the liaisons for that college are getting together along with other key stakeholders from the college. So maybe a couple of advisors or faculty or PSS who haven't seen or heard much of Workday can be part of that unit readiness team. And those teams are working together to get the message out to their faculty, staff, and students. So we'll have we have a monthly Workday newsletter that comes out from the project team, and we do different things like this on kind of more of a project level. But we also know that sometimes people will read like their own college's newsletter more than they would other things, so looking to cascade the messaging out in as many ways as we can. So yeah, that's one of the key things we're asking unit readiness teams to do at this point, is just share key messages out with the faculty, staff, and mostly faculty and staff at this point. We'll kind of ramp up student communication more this fall. And also to start to look at some of our training materials already is what our unit readiness teams are helping us with. I mentioned some key messages. So a lot of the things we've asked leaders and liaisons to share with you all are also mentioned in our monthly Workday newsletter and then linked out to our website. So if you're still wondering why are we doing Workday Student, there's a whole page on that. We have a couple pages we have featured here is who are the liaisons. So if you have a question, you can go connect with someone in your area. We have our different training courses that we're anticipating for faculty and staff. We have a number of other pages too that are continuing to come. We currently have one called What's Changing, and we'll have one coming soon called What's Not Changing. So you can make sure you know that as well. And like I said, if you watch for the monthly Workday newsletter, you'll see links out to the website as we want to highlight content out there. And I just wanted to share also, I think Colleen talked a little bit about this on our timeline, what we have coming up in August and September. But just wanted to reiterate, I hope you all enjoyed getting a little sneak peek of the system today, and we'd like to allow that at even another level to where you can get in and click around and things. So starting in August with our leaders and liaisons, they'll, since they're putting in the extra time, they get to get into the system and click around before anyone else. We'll also be working with some key student groups at that time to test out like how are things looking for students and having actual students come in and do that. I see Ty here, our VP from Student Senate, thank you. And we're working with a few other key groups, student groups across campus, including the student engagement cohort out of INE, as well as our graduate student association. And so again, get some of those key student groups in August, and then in September, open that up to more faculty, staff, and students to be able to get into the system and click around before you attend training. And speaking of training, with that, I'd like to invite up Luana Williams, who is one of our training co-leads, to share information on training. Our other co-lead is Heather Goldgen, who's a faculty member out of class. Okay.
Thanks, Belinda. How is everyone? Good afternoon. So I thought the band would be here when I started to introduce the training part because it's so exciting. So I'm so sad that they're not here. So for faculty and staff, we have some exciting things planned. We have help articles that will be available that are associated with demo videos in Workday Help. One of the other things that we're doing is also curating a glossary of terms so that you'll be able to see that on the website. That's going to be especially helpful as you look for certain key terms to make sure that you know what those mean, so to walk those across to terms that you're familiar with and what those terms look like in Workday. Courses and topics are actually available now for you to view on the website. So there will also be 50-minute training videos. You'll have the option to look at those and be a part of those in person or virtually. There's also a section that are courses by role, as well as some optional practice labs for you. For students, our focus is really going to be on help articles, demo videos, and practice labs for students at peak times. Changed. So when you're looking for courses by role, we do have that available for you to preview. So you'll see that they're sectioned out based on faculty who advise, faculty who don't advise, advisors, professional support staff, deans, assistant, and unit heads, and so on. So there's been a lot of thought that has gone behind what the training framework will look like so that we can ensure that you all are prepared and able to help our students. So I'm not sure who's next. Is it you, Josh? I think it is. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Luana. And just to bring us to our panel Q&A. While it's a lot of Workday, and we have a lot of knowledge in this room of different leaders and folks involved with Workday at every level. So at this time, we will bring in our panel up front here. Please join us at the tables. And I know we have about 90 folks on Zoom as well. So we'll be taking questions through Zoom. And why don't we first open it up to this room. If anyone has a question, please just go ahead, raise your hand, and we'll run a mic to you for your question. And apparently no one wants to sit with Nick. Yes, please. Can we run a mic? Milan, can you help with mic running? Thank you.
Okay, I was just curious if in Workday in the future, if there's going to be the opportunity of being able to do, when you record a cash sale, to do both American Express and Visa, MasterCard all in the same transaction, or is that always going to have to be separate?
That sounded like...
Oh, did you hear the question, Stacy? On a cash sale, in the future, will they have the option? Correct me if I get this wrong, Sherry. To be able to have American Express and Visa Mastercard all in the same line?
No, they're different clearinghouses for the payment that comes into our banking account. So since they're different clearinghouses, they show up separately, and we need them to match the money that comes in to the transaction you send us.
Okay.
For reconciliation purposes, since they're different providers, they don't come in together.
All right.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
Restriction.
I do have one other question. Negatives.
Oh, yeah. Well, hold on. We're going to repeat that
Yep.
to the people online real quick. We cannot combine American Express and Visa MasterCard in the same line on a cash sale because of how they get fed in back from our bank. So we have a lot of automation behind the scenes to reconcile all of our banking transactions that fed in. So American Express comes in separate from Visa and MasterCard.
Thank you. And your follow-up question?
Just, I do sometimes have to, refund clients back, and I understand that Workday doesn't accept negatives, when you're entering the cash sale. So is that still going to be the same in the future, or will it ever be able to accept a negative dollar amount?
Did you hear that, Stacy? This is a Stacy question again.
Sorry, Stacy.
Let's give the mic to Stacy.
Yep, so all of those payments that come in, after a certain amount of days, they're not connected anymore and we cannot give them back. So all money going out of the university, we have decided, has to go through Erica. She has all the proper controls. You would do a miscellaneous payment request in that case.
Here you go, Erica.
And the miscellaneous payment, so what she's saying is on a credit card, if you're trying to refund it, right, you only have so many days before that, and then at some point you can't refund that anymore. I'm working to build a process using the miscellaneous payment request that'll allow everybody in the university that needs to refund somebody, not a payment, but a refund that's not tax reportable. You'll be able to do that yourself. For now, if you have those, you can email those to Brian Thompson or myself, and we'll take care of them for you. But we're working on that so that it'll go through the normal approval processes, and you'll be able to enter those on your own.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Other questions in the room? Yes.
Thanks. I'm just curious what the mock semester is going to look like. Is that all features are going to be available? Are we going to have pretend students in there or real students, or how's that going to work for us?
I can start with that, and then other people can jump in. So the mock semester is going to be like a period of around 3 weeks where we take things from the very beginning and go all the way through the semester. So we're going to do all of the normal processes that you do in a semester, but in a very condensed time frame. So students will register, they'll have financial aid dispersed, they'll have their bill, they'll pay their bill. We'll do midterm grades, right? We'll do final grades, we'll do academic review, we'll graduate students, right? We'll do the whole thing in a short amount of time. And the idea is to have student focus groups and faculty and staff groups that come in and do the things that they do. So a student would be registering, and a faculty member would be assigning grades, midterm grades and final grades, right? And making sure that everything works kind of linked together like it should, right? Does anyone else want to add anything to that?
Yeah, that's an excellent description. I just add that our intent with mock semesters to allow as wide of an opportunity for involvement as possible. So as we approach that period, we'll have more information on what it looks like to get involved and sign up for mock semesters so we can make sure that we're prepared for folks to be engaged. And yes, it is real student data. It will be the last stop of our configuration and data before we go live. So it will be real student data and real configuration. Good question. Other questions in the room? I think I saw another hand up. Yes, please.
So currently in Banner, when you're trying to explain something to a student, it can be very difficult because you can't see the view that they're looking at. So it's very helpful to have like a student employee who can pull it up and show exactly what the student does. So I know that the view of the student view is more robust, but is there any chance we're going to be able to see exactly what the student's seeing in there?
So you won't be able to see exactly what the student sees, but you will. It will be much improved compared to Banner. You will be able to see a lot of the same things. Like the view I was showing you on the student profile was a view with me logged in as myself. If I had logged in, or Jordan had logged in herself, the view would have been slightly different, but by and large, things would have been very, very similar. So it should be a definite improvement.
We had one that came in so far. It says, for the bulk hiring, does it have to be for 15 plus students? Do all the students have to be hired for the same supervisor? And do all students have to be hired for the same position?
Very good. I'll answer that. I don't know the EIB specifically that we're using, but theoretically it's possible to hire them into different supervisory orgs. I'm not sure if that's going to be on the spreadsheet. So theoretically, does that help? Oh, yes.
And we'll keep you updated in the supervisor newsletter. We're still learning what that process is going to look like. So like John said, we need to know exactly what the spreadsheet format will look like. And once we know that, we'll be able to give you exact instructions on what information we need, what's possible. And then for the 15 students, that's kind of the ballpark we're looking at right now. If we do anything less than that, by the time you put the students into the spreadsheet, we upload it and check it, you're not really getting them hired any faster than you would previously. So we're still trying to figure out that sweet spot. But if you have 14 students, yeah, we'll still do it, but we're just trying to figure out what amount of students is actually going to save time with this process.
Thank you. We have another one here. Are there currently any plans to add a student scheduling feature? From my current understanding, you can add a set schedule, but not one that regularly changes day to day, week to week, like student schedules often do.
So I'm not 100% sure I understand that question. Are they talking about scheduling classes or student schedules in terms of employment? Employment? Then I'm handing the mic over.
Do you guys know?
I mean, okay, very good. Those student schedules are kind of set across they're universal in the system, so we would have to either do one that is like, okay, here's this, and then here's an alternate, and here's an alternate. But there's no way to customize to a specific person.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions in the room?
So we have an integration that's kind of underway. We haven't really gotten to the testing point yet, but it's around placement testing processes. So in our office, we try to process those in 30 to 45 minutes. So when students complete their placement test, we enter that data into Banner. They're able to register for their courses. So my understanding is that integration is going to be run on a nightly basis as opposed to maybe an hourly. Is there opportunity to adjust that? Like kind of the sync timeline.
I'm looking to see if anyone from our integrations team is here.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, let me know. I can't answer specifically right now, but we can definitely talk about what is possible depending on the integration.
Okay, thanks. We have another question online. Will all past student academic data be imported from Banner to Workday? If not, how will we access that data if past students need it?
Okay, so that's a great question. When we're translating data from Banner into Workday, we're bringing some students in as what we call active students. So those are students who have been active in Banner in the last 7 years. So they've registered for courses, they've paid a bill, they've done something in the last 7 years. Those are being brought over as active students. But we still have like 220,000 records of students who are not active, were not active in that time frame. Those will be brought over as well, but they'll be brought over in a slightly different way. We call them historical students, and we'll bring over all the data we need in order to, for example, create a transcript for them. But they won't be active in the system. If the student comes back, like they got a bachelor's degree 15 years ago and then they decide to come back for a master's, we would reactivate them, and then they would be an active student in the system.
Nothing else online at this time. Oh, one just came in here. Let's see here. Is this a Q&A? Let me see. Does anyone have a question in the room while I read this one?
Yeah, let's hear what's on Zoom.
I'm just, so the comment, maybe slash question is, it's a wonderful session. I love the information being shared and the panelists. Go Erica and Pam, all right? I don't know how... I don't know how many are in attendance in the room. However, there's a demand for this type of Workday Q&A on a more regular basis, especially as we approach the student platform implementation. Is the plan to hold these Workday town halls more frequently?
Sounds like a question for you.
It does. So I would say, as far as this method of a town hall, we are planning on doing something like this in the fall, at least from our Workday student side of things, so we can, have some discussion with our Workday governance group as well about what that might look like. But I would say as well, in general, for questions, we have our Workday support page out there, which has direct links to, of course, help articles and training, but also on how to connect directly with all these wonderful people up here, and as well as to submit a ticket that makes it directly to the Workday governance group for review of questions or suggestions. Yeah, Karen.
Could you highlight how much our students know about this upcoming transition to Workday students and how they're being informed? Maybe not yet, I don't know.
Yep, I can answer that as well, is that our focus so far has been more toward faculty and staff because students who are graduating soon aren't going to be part of this transition, but we definitely have plans to ramp up the communications with students in the fall. Yep. Any other questions?
I guess I'll just add to that I believe our strategy for that, and please correct me if I'm misspeaking here, is that we understand that students want to hear about Workday when it's relevant for them to do things in Workday. So we're trying to time our communications and training with students to closer to those actual impact dates for those students.
Hey friends. I really like that I got to see a preview of the student profile, and all of those tabs are different than, of course, if they have an employee profile. My question is, what does that look like in future state when the student is also a student employee? Do they have two profiles the way a pre-hire and an employee have two profiles, or does that all merge into one profile when you search a student's name and they have two connections to the university?
Yeah, it's all in one place. So on the side of the screen, if you have multiple roles at the university, just like now, if you're, depending on your role, if you're a manager, right, you have different things than a regular employee has, right? You have a different look and feel, and the same thing will be true for students. But then the beautiful thing, and the thing that we're really excited about for Workday, is everything is one system, right? So no longer do you have to go into multiple systems to view things. You're going to be able to view everything in one screen, which is really great. So we all know that everyone has different hats at the university, and it's great to be able to have everything in one place.
I'll add as a quick bonus, you won't have to create an external committee member to reimburse a student once student's in place. You can just use their student profile to save anybody that's doing that painful act right now. It'll save you a lot of time.
So current state, if we hire an employee that was previously a student, we have to have them submit their transcript. They order it from the registrar, and it's emailed to HR for our files. What will that look like with Workday Student coming live? Will we have access to be able to pull those ourselves so that employees don't have to request for that to be ordered?
I don't think any of us know the answer to that question.
Okay.
But we'll take note of it.
Thank you. It would be very nice to not have to have employees take that extra step. It is a pain point when you hire someone and they say, don't you already have that in the system? We get that often.
Do you want, so I guess just to clarify, are you looking at that in HR to be able to view that? So you'd want the security access in HR to be able to view someone's transcript? Is that what we're thinking about? Or
I think that would be beneficial, correct?
Okay, because
yes.
alternatively, the other thing we could do is we could automatically, if somebody applies to Grand Valley, that went to Grand Valley, we could just pull that transcript automatically, potentially. So we could look at an integration to do that. So yeah, I'll take note of that. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Great questions. Any other questions in the room or online? I'm going to pause for an awkwardly long moment here.
Josh, can I make a plug real quick
Yeah,
while
please
we're
do.
pausing and
Yeah.
anybody getting some courage? So from the finance side of things, I want to toss out, Belinda was talking about, someone asked the question about if there will be a Q&A again in the future. And again, for student is, we're really moving forward with student right now. On the finance side, at least in the operations and procurement and accounts payable and expense reports, we toss this out there all the time, but if any of your departments need help from us, want some help from us, need some training, need some one-on-one, reach out to Heather Whitereye. And we're happy to come sit with your team and help you look at your processes and see what we can do to help improve those operational type tasks for you. We want to make it better for you. We don't want this to be painful. So reach out to us directly. We've had that offer out there for years and not very many teams take us up on that, but those that have seen a pretty significant improvement. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Erica. Yes.
One more on the finance side. Do we have an online payment method for vendors? For example, if I'm a vendor and I'm trying to do business with the university, to submit an online payment instead of dropping a check off at Zumberg.
You mean if they would need to refund us? Or you mean for customers?
It's like business-to-business contract. So, for example, if I sponsor a College of Computing capstone project, I owe the university $2,500. Currently, I have to cut a money order and bring it to Zumberg.
Really, we actually have options. We have credit card machines in our office, so you can stop by our office or call our main line, and we can take credit card payments as long as we know where we're depositing it to. If there is an invoice in Workday, you give us the invoice number, we can apply the payment against that. We don't have an ACH EFT option readily available. We can do that, but you have to reach out to us directly, and we can work with our treasury team to make that happen. And then otherwise, yeah, we take checks at any point as well. And if you are hosting an event, you can work with, is it institutional marketing? That's not what they're called anymore. Institutional marketing, and they can put up a link on the CMS website for you as well, where you can take credit card payments that way as well.
Okay, we have another one online. Will the administrative support dashboard be available to PSS at other clerical levels with obvious modified reports, help articles appropriate to the differences amongst positions at some point? This seems like it would be very helpful for both existing staff and newly hired folks so the information is available to review all in one place.
Sure. The idea was to start with our kind of super users who use the most things and have the most breadth of things that they're responsible for. I don't see any reason why we can't continue that, but time is of the essence, and we're trying to do the manager dashboard and kind of move forward with some other things. So it's not necessarily going to happen soon, but it can if there's that much interest in it.
We need to start somewhere where they can vote. Thanks, John. Anyone else have a question?
Are there any functionalities that you think are going to be hard for people to take on? So we're talking about a lot of the good things that are coming through it too, but I just wondered if there's any things that you're looking at that you're thinking, oh, this might be a challenge for folks.
Yeah, it's a very good question. I'm curious if anyone has any initial insight to share on that.
I think so moving from Banner to Workday is a big change, right? And I think that there are going to be things that are different, right? And it's going to take time to learn how things are done in Workday versus how they were done in Banner, right? The academic progress report is a good example. It doesn't look like My Path, and people in My Path are used to seeing, green means it's done, red means it's not done, and there's color coding. In the academic progress report, there's not color coding. There's a column, and it says satisfied, in progress, or not yet satisfied, right? And so that's a change, and it's going to take time for people to get used to the change. I do think the academic progress report is one of the larger changes because the functionality just is quite different from My Path.
Thank you, Pam. I think what comes to mind for me in addition to that is there could be things today that we anticipate being hard for people that turn out not being hard. And I'm sure there's a lot of things that we're not even thinking about that will become hard for people when we go through the change. So with that, I kind of want to do a plug for those unit readiness teams, right? Because that's a really important mechanism for each college to sort of have those conversations and understand what is hard for people, and then we can figure out how to make it easy.
I was going to add, we just started last week the phase of our project where we're doing end-to-end testing. So we've been doing a different unit and life cycle testing, and now we're in end-to-end. So this is where we do also anticipate maybe discovering more, learning more about some of those sticking points, and being able to highlight those in our training materials. And then I see we have another question online here. Are there optimization plans to streamline various processes within Workday? For example, when hiring students, there are still dozens of steps across multiple actions for a single process. It would be great to reduce the number of actions one person has to do consecutively. Additionally, there are a number of fields that require you to manually enter a specific term for the system to categorize it correctly. This type of clunkiness is common across Workday, so even though it's now in one system, it still feels quite inefficient for many users.
I can answer that. So I would just put a plug in for putting in a ticket with the Workday governance group, right? Submit that request and be as specific as possible. So, I've seen a lot of things come in that are like, processes are inefficient. For example, this one. Cool, okay, we can look at that one, but then I get another one. Processes are inefficient. For example, this one, right? Tell me all of the processes that are inefficient for you and we will look at all of them, right? We can look at them all. They might not change, but we're happy to look at them.
I just wanted to mention too, when John, you asked a question about some of the things that might be changing, that might be a little bit more challenging. I did just post in the chat for our online people our What's Changing website, which lists out many of the things we're aware that are changing. But I do anticipate adding a number of additional items to that page, again, especially as we go through end-to-end testing. So as we become aware of more things that might be different or maybe even a little bit more difficult, we'll make sure to post those to the website and then link it in the newsletter.
Other questions from the room? These are great questions. Thank you so much for your input. Okay, seeing none, and I think we've exhausted our online questions. We will move into our table Q&A. So on the left side, which I presume is this side, right? We have curriculum and advising, financial aid and student financials, IT and records and registration for Workday student topics. And on the right side, we have finance, human resources, and student employment. So we'll close the formal session and we'll end the Zoom and break into these table discussions. We encourage you to stop by with any questions or input you have. Thank you again. I'm in attention today and looking forward to next steps with Workday.